Hello everyone, it's Olivia here, aka Story Minded, and I just wanted to do a really quick update video. I know I've been missing in action for like a really long time. Things have just been crazy. So I started university in September. I can't remember the exact date because everything's been a bit of a blur. And I just wanted to sort of talk about my modules really and how my sort of experience has been going so far. So, where to begin? My first module, or not my first module, but one of my literature modules is called Literary Powers, Renaissance to Romanticism, and the two texts we've sort of looked at so far is Machiavelli's The Prince, which is a non-advice, that doesn't make sense, a non-fiction advice book that was a really popular genre during the Renaissance period, where different people would write these sort of guidebooks for governors and rulers and princes and sort of tell them how they should conduct themselves to be a popular ruler. But what Machiavelli does is he kind of comes into this genre and switches everything around, because the traditional standard for this time is that a prince should be virtuous and morally just. What Machiavelli says is the complete opposite of that. And he's like, oh, no. If you want to rule a kingdom, you need to know how to be cunning, how to be a performer, how to manipulate situations to your fortune, and all those wonderful ideas. So that was a really interesting text we looked at. But I ended up not using it for my essay, which I'll go on to, for my first essay, which I'll go on to in a second. The other text we looked at was The Jew of Malta by Christopher Marlowe. That was a really brilliant play, really enjoyed it, and that's what I used for my essay. Because without even being in uni for like a week or so, we were suddenly informed that, oh yeah, by the way, at the end of October you have like an essay due in, and I admit, I think that made me panic a little bit, because obviously I've been working for the last 3 years, so this transition from working to going back to being a student is quite a big transition for me. So I was like, okay, but I also know that first year doesn't count towards your final overall grade, so I thought, let's experiment. We were given a choice of 3 questions, and I decided to try the creative option, which was to write a blank verse soliloquy, which I've probably messed up, and sort of do like a reflective commentary, or sort of like just show your engagement with the play and link it to the play, and you had to do it from the perspective of one of the characters from the play. So I did it from Barabbas's perspective, and he is the Jew of Malta. So I did... I was so frustrated because I did have a tutorial with my lecturer and I had so many ideas, but it was a really limited word count. In my course, we're really lucky, we get 10% either way, so I've been able to go over the 10%, but it was only a 1,000 word essay, so 1,100 words, that is like hardly anything. So a lot of the ideas that she really agreed with them, and she thought, yeah, go for it. I wasn't able to include everything that I wanted to include. But if worse comes to worse, I'm probably going to be able to do the second attempt essay, which is where we have to pick a different question we didn't answer. And luckily, one of the other questions I did like. And it'll be a 2,000 word essay. Yay. But hopefully, I might have scraped 40 marks, because that's all I need technically to pass that part of it. So that was for Literary Powers. My favourite creative writing module so far is Tips, Tricks and Techniques. I love this module so much. This is the one where we've had to do a case study. I did a 5-minute oral presentation on my favourite author, one of my favourite authors, and how they've inspired my work. So I've picked Neil Gaiman, the wonderful Neil Gaiman. That went really well. That was to just get some formative feedback to then turn it into our critical essay, and I've done my critical essay and submitted it. I won't get any, I don't know how I've done on any of these assignments yet, because we don't get marking back yet. And the second task that I'm sort of working on this week, we've got a consolidation week, which is basically a reading week, and you just have to do like the tasks on your Moodle system or obviously do preparatory reading and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to try and create a first draft for one of the other assignments I need to do. The second assignment in this tips, tricks and techniques module is to use the techniques you've talked about from your critical essay that you studied from your favourite author and use them in a piece of creative work. So you can do poetry, screenplay, whatever you like to write. So I'm doing a short story because that's sort of one of the many forms that Neil Gaiman uses, and I am creating a story called The Collector of Nightmares, and I'm going to try and add more to it today. I'm trying to think of the other module now. The other literature module that I'm doing this year, next in January we'll get a new literature module which is popular culture, spies, dragons and time machines, but I don't know anything about that one yet. The other literature module we're doing this year is called, and probably into next year as well, it's a really long module, Unpacking Texts, which is all to do with an introduction to critical theory. So that's like all your theories and stuff, and it's really challenging, and I am not looking forward to that essay. We've got the essay questions and I'm like, oh my god, we have so many choices we can pick from, but my brain is just a bit like pfft. So I'm going to try and plan it, and I'm definitely going to try and see if I could either book a tutorial with my lecturer or sort of be like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but hopefully I'll be able to get a sort of an idea for that one. So we haven't actually really done any assignments for that one yet. True Stories is another creative writing module that's sort of looking at our own life experiences and looking at voice and different types of autobiographical writing and stuff like that. And for our first sort of major assignment for that, we have to create like a portfolio of 5 poems, but they can only be a single page. So I've created 5 drafts of the poems, and all these first drafts have to be fully annotated, but I'm not at that stage yet. But I've created the first drafts of the poems, and I'm going to try and name them hopefully over this week, because some of them I haven't given names to yet. And there's quite a few other bits to that module, but once again I'm not at that stage yet, so I can't really off the top of my head remember what they are. What other ones are there? So literary powers, tips, tricks, techniques, true stories. I've already said let pass. What's the other one then? Literary powers, tips, tricks, techniques, true stories, unpacking texts, telling tales, that's it. Telling tales is all to do with the oral tradition and like the ancient storytelling, and for that one I'm creating retelling a short story that can sort of be, it's just like a 21st century retelling, and I think it's pretty open. You can still keep it like an ancient tale, it's just putting your own spin on it. So I had so many ideas for this one, and there's 2 other story ideas that I would have loved to have used, but I think I'm gonna save them as a reserve. But the one kind of based off of what one of my lecturers, we've got different lecturers for all these modules, like sometimes we have 2 lecturers for the one module. One of my lecturers, Stephen, he talked about this myth. He's like a specialist in Arthurian legend, which is really cool. And he told us about this Middle Ages, although I think it's older than that, but it's sort of like the Middle Ages myth of Childe Roland, however you pronounce it. I pronounce it as Roland. And Childe, I looked it up, and it was a title that was given to like a squire or a trainee knight type thing. And it's sort of about his story of how he runs widdershins, which is something you're never meant to do. Widdershins is when you run you go in the opposite direction of the sun, which is really bad, because then you get taken to that elf land by the elf, like you get taken to this magical realm. So my retelling, I focused on his sister, who traditionally in the older tales, like so many authors have engaged with this idea and have played with it. Burd Ellen, who's his sister. Bird means a lady, as in B-U-R-D. It's not like a bird as in, oh, she's a right bird, like colloquial. It sounds a bit weird to say. But she doesn't get a voice in the older tales, so that's my retelling of it. She's the main protagonist, and I've given her a voice. So hopefully I'll get some feedback on that one soon. because my lecturer was like, my other lecturer for that was like, oh yeah, I'm really happy during consolidation week if you have any first drafts, send it to me and I'll give you some feedback. So I've done that. And the last thing I'll quickly talk about is British Sign Language. I am in love with British Sign Language. I find it amazing, it's fascinating, and that's just a free to study course that I've chosen to do as an extra, and like it doesn't count towards my credits or anything, but I'm in love with it. It's amazing. I love my lecturer Mark. He's such a lovely guy. He's so funny, and he is, as he would sign to us, he is deaf. He's fully deaf, and he's just amazing, and he's so patient, great sense of humour, and when we get things wrong he'll just like sort of laugh at us and stuff, and he's really, really nice. And I felt really proud because one day when I was travelling into uni, I met him at the bus stop, and I was sort of like, oh, hello, and like I was able to actually hold a conversation with him in sign language, and a couple of times I had to go like, I can't do it properly because I haven't got my other hand, but this one you have both hands on each side of your head and you go like, like, sorry. I was like, sorry, I do not understand, but he just broke it down for me, and I was able to understand him, and I found out lots of information about him, and it was great. So it's just amazing. I love it. I love sign language so much. I don't know if anyone's watched this, thank you, and I hope to make another video soon. Bye, or bye.